My experience with Yiddish is just what I think the majority of my generation's experience with Yiddish is, that it was the language that was spoken when our parents didn't want us to know what they were saying. My parents were second generation. Well, no, my parents were both first generation in this country, but my mother was the youngest of 8 children, so she was the much more Americanized of any of them. And so Yiddish was just not part of their day-to-day world at all. And since my grandparents were no longer alive, basically, by the time I was born, I don't have that memory of the language, except when my parents used it when they didn't want me to understand. And I would often ask those questions, like, what does this mean and what does that mean? And my mother's answer always was, it doesn't translate, you wouldn't understand. And I always thought that that meant that they didn't want me to know. And I guess after working here, I've realized that often it doesn't translate, you wouldn't understand, is actually accurate. Because the language doesn't really actually translate well into English. And so her frustration was probably real. It may not all have been about wanting it to be a secret. And so maybe I have actually learned that from being here, that my mother wasn't just lying to me, you know?